In the quiet, unassuming town of West Pittston, Pennsylvania, a duplex on Chase Street stood like any other working-class home in the early 1970s. Its weathered brick exterior and modest porch gave no hint of the terror that would soon consume the lives of its new residents, Jack and Janet Smurl, along with their children and Jack's parents. What began as a hopeful move to a fixer-upper home after a devastating flood would spiral into a 15-year ordeal that would challenge their sanity, faith, and survival. The Smurl family's story, one of the most documented and controversial hauntings in modern history, is a chilling descent into the paranormal, marked by unrelenting supernatural attacks, skepticism from outsiders, and a desperate fight to reclaim their lives. This is the disturbing case of the Smurl Haunting, a tale of fear, resilience, and the unseen forces that some believe lurk beyond the veil of the living. It was August 1973 when Jack and Janet Smurl, a devout Catholic couple, moved into the duplex at 328 to 330 Chase Street. Tropical storm Agnes had ravaged their previous home in Wilkes-Barre, forcing them to seek a fresh start. The duplex, built around 1910 over former coal mines, seemed like a practical choice. One side would house Jack, Janet, and their two young daughters, Dawn and Heather, while Jack's parents, John and Mary, settled into the other. Two more daughters, twins Shannon and Karen, would join the family later. The Smurls were an all-American family, hardworking, church-going, and close-knit. They set about renovating the aging property, painting walls, fixing pipes, and making it their own. For a time, life seemed promising. Jack earned a promotion at work, the girls thrived in school, and the community welcomed them warmly. But beneath the surface of this idyllic new chapter, something sinister was stirring. The first signs were subtle, easily dismissed as quirks of an old house. Tools vanished from Jack's workbench, only to reappear in odd places. Freshly painted walls bled with stains that no amount of scrubbing could erase. The family chalked it up to the home's age, perhaps faulty wiring or plumbing. But in 1974, the disturbances took a darker turn. One night, as the family slept, a series of loud bangs echoed through the house, rattling walls and ceilings. Jack, a practical man who scoffed at ghost stories, investigated but found nothing. The noises persisted, sporadic at first, then more frequent. By 1975, foul odors, described as a mix of sulfur and rotting flesh, began to permeate the home, appearing suddenly and vanishing just as quickly. The Smurls checked the plumbing, the furnace, even the yard, but found no source. It was unsettling, but they pressed on, unwilling to entertain thoughts of the supernatural. The disturbances escalated in 1977, the year of their daughter Heather's confirmation. That night, as the family celebrated, their German shepherd, Simon, was inexplicably lifted by an unseen force and hurled against the living room wall in front of everyone. The dog yelped in pain, and the children screamed as the room filled with a suffocating sense of dread. Jack, shaken but determined to stay rational, checked the dog for injuries and found none, but the incident left an indelible mark. The family began to notice other anomalies: footsteps pacing the attic when no one was there, whispers in empty rooms, and shadows that seemed to dart across walls. Janet, who had always been skeptical of the paranormal, began to feel a growing unease. "It's just an old house," she told herself, but the words felt hollow. By 1980, the Smurls' home had become a battleground. The disturbances were no longer isolated incidents but a relentless campaign of terror. The family reported objects moving on their own, dishes sliding across tables, chairs tipping over, and doors slamming shut. One of the most harrowing incidents involved Dawn, the eldest daughter, who was pushed down a flight of stairs by an unseen force. She tumbled, narrowly avoiding serious injury, but the terror in her eyes was unmistakable. Janet began to suspect something malevolent was at play, but Jack resisted, clinging to logic despite the mounting evidence. The family's faith, deeply rooted in their Catholic upbringing, became both a refuge and a source of frustration. They turned to their local parish for help, but the priests were skeptical, demanding physical proof of the disturbances. Without tangible evidence, the church offered little beyond prayers and blessings. In 1983, Jack's health took a troubling turn. He underwent surgery to relieve fluid buildup in his brain, a complication from a childhood case of meningitis that had caused short-term memory loss. The procedure was successful, but it left him vulnerable, both physically and mentally. It was around this time that the haunting intensified, as if sensing weakness. Janet reported being lifted off the ground one night, dangling 6 feet in the air before being flung across the bedroom. She described the sensation as paralyzing, as if an invisible force had seized her body. Jack, too, faced unimaginable horror. One evening, while watching a baseball game in the living room, he claimed a shadowy figure, a succubus, he later learned, assaulted him in a way that left him shaken and humiliated. The entity's attacks weren't limited to the adults. The children reported seeing a dark, formless shape lurking in their rooms, its presence marked by an oppressive cold that made their breath visible even in summer. The Smurls' desperation grew as the entity seemed to follow them beyond the house. On a family camping trip, hoping for respite, they were horrified to encounter the same phenomena: bangs on the campers' walls, the stench of decay filling their car, and a shadowy figure resembling a girl in colonial dress appearing in the woods. Jack felt a sharp kick while driving, nearly causing him to swerve off the road. The realization that the entity could pursue them anywhere shattered any hope of escape. Neighbors, too, reported disturbances, screams from the Smurl home when the family was away, and objects missing from their own properties. The once welcoming community began to turn, some accusing the Smurls of fabricating the story for attention, likening it to the Amityville Horror, which had gripped pop culture in the late 1970s. By 1985, the Smurls could no longer ignore the truth: their home was infested with something evil. Exhausted and terrified, they reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators who had gained fame for their work on the Amityville case. The Warrens arrived in 1986, bringing with them a reputation for both credibility and controversy. Lorraine, a clairvoyant, toured the house and immediately sensed a malevolent presence. She identified 4 spirits: an elderly woman, a young girl with violent tendencies, a man who had died on the property, and a demon orchestrating the chaos. Ed, a demonologist, attempted to provoke the entity using religious artifacts, holy water, a crucifix, and prayers. He claimed the room grew cold, furniture shook, and a dark mass formed before him, confirming the presence of a demonic force. The Warrens' investigation drew national attention, with reporters, photographers, and curiosity seekers descending on Chase Street, turning the Smurls' quiet neighborhood into a media circus. The Smurls' decision to go public was born of desperation. 2 attempted exorcisms by the Catholic Church had failed to stop the disturbances, and the family hoped media exposure would bring help. They appeared on shows like Larry King Live and Entertainment Tonight, recounting their ordeal to a fascinated but divided public. Some saw them as victims of a genuine supernatural assault, others, including skeptics like Paul Kurtz of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, dismissed their claims as delusions or a hoax. Kurtz pointed to Jack's brain surgery and the family's financial struggles as possible explanations, suggesting psychological or environmental factors. Local newspapers, such as the Wilkes-Barre Times-Leader, criticized the Smurls' story for its lack of empirical evidence, with one reviewer calling their 1986 book, The Haunted, co-authored with the Warrens and journalist Robert Curran, a one-sided account lacking credibility. Despite the skepticism, the Smurls' story resonated with many. Reporters allowed inside the home claimed to witness phenomena firsthand: loud flapping sounds, moving objects, and the ever-present foul odors. The Warrens insisted they had collected evidence, audio recordings of knocks and shadowy figures on film, but Ed never released this to the public, fueling doubts about its authenticity. The family's devout faith and relatable struggles struck a chord, particularly with those who believed in the reality of demonic forces. The late Vatican exorcist Father Gabriele Amorth's words about Satan's goal to destroy families seemed to echo in the Smurls' experience, lending weight to their claims for believers. In 1987, after a 3rd exorcism and intense prayers, the Smurls reported a brief respite. The disturbances seemed to wane, and they dared to hope the nightmare was over. But the relief was short-lived. Knocks and shadows returned, and Janet told reporters the entity was still present, though less aggressive. That same year, the family made the painful decision to leave Chase Street, selling the duplex and moving to Wilkes-Barre. The new resident, Deborah Owens, reported no supernatural activity, adding fuel to the skeptics' fire. The Smurls, however, insisted the entity followed them to their new home, though its attacks eventually subsided after continued prayers and blessings. The Smurl haunting left a lasting mark on popular culture. In 1991, a made-for-TV movie, The Haunted, starring Sally Kirkland and Jeffrey DeMunn, brought their story to a wider audience. The film, while dramatized, captured the family's terror and the Warrens' involvement, with scenes like the shadowy figure crossing the living room leaving a lasting impression on viewers. In 2025, the upcoming film The Conjuring: Last Rites is set to revisit the Smurl case, further cementing its place in horror history. The Smurl story also inspired books, documentaries, and podcasts, including a 2023 YouTube documentary titled The Disturbing Case of the Smurl Haunting, which offered a comprehensive look at their ordeal. For the Smurls, the haunting was no mere story. It was a grueling 15-year battle that tested their faith, strained their relationships, and left them ostracized by some in their community. Jack passed away in 2017 from complications of diabetes, but his daughter Karen has since spoken out as a paranormal investigator, advocating for those experiencing similar phenomena. Janet and her daughters, now living near West Pittston, report no further disturbances, suggesting the entity was finally banished. Yet the house on Chase Street remains a local legend, its unassuming facade belying the terror that once gripped the Smurl family. The Smurl haunting remains one of the most polarizing cases in paranormal history. For believers, it is a chilling testament to the reality of demonic forces and the resilience of a family sustained by faith. For skeptics, it is a cautionary tale of how psychological distress, media influence, and cultural phenomena like Amityville can shape perceptions of the supernatural. The lack of concrete evidence, audio or video proof that could be scientifically studied, leaves the truth elusive. Yet the Smurl story endures, not only for its horror but for its human element, a family caught in a nightmare, fighting to protect their loved ones against an unseen enemy. Whether you view it as fact or fiction, the Smurl haunting forces us to confront unsettling questions about the nature of evil and the boundaries of reality. Have you or someone you know experienced unexplained phenomena? Share your story with a trusted friend, spiritual advisor, or paranormal investigator. If you're intrigued by the Smurl case, explore the 1991 film The Haunted, the 2023 YouTube documentary, or Rebecca F. Pittman's book, The History and Haunting of the Smurl Family Horror. Visit local historical societies like the West Pittston Historical Society to learn more about the house on Chase Street, or join a paranormal tour to see it for yourself. Keep an open mind, but always seek the truth, whether it lies in faith, science, or the shadows between.